Stephen Batchelor, in his book, best-selling book, Living with the Devil, writes of a phenomenon called the Devil's Circle. A man lost in the desert can trudge for hours or days in despair. And off in the distance, suddenly he sees a set of footsteps, and he goes, salvation, I can follow that path and go to where that person found salvation. And despair turns to joy until that person trudging in the desert comes upon their steps, and they realize it's their steps. Somehow, because of maybe one leg being slightly shorter or maybe an injury, they veered to the left or veered to the right when they thought they were walking straight. And they transcribed an entire big circle in the desert to come upon themselves, and their joy once again turns to despair. It's called the Devil's Circle. In Sanskrit, the term samsara describes life's tendency to repeat itself. In Tibetan, it's korba, which means circling. In German, vicious cycle is Teufelskreis, or Devil's Circle. The devil's circle is addictive as we experience false highs along the way, and it invites us to restart the same journey. Eventually, it leads to a numbness, a lack of awareness, a mindlessness, not a mindfulness. From my travels and emails from readers and listeners like you, I don't think that Mike is alone. He's in that circle, and he's bored. And with every revolution he takes in that circle, the path gets cut a little deeper, and he's in a rut. Of course, we never start off in that rut. I mean, we come out and we think we're going to climb that ladder of success. You know, we kind of get in the groove in high school, and then we graduate. We go to college and get a job, and we take that next step, and then we kind of get in the groove, and we learn how to pull an all-nighter, or we learn how to succeed at the job, and then we get in that groove for a while, and then, boom, we take that next step. And you know how it is. This is the path that you've walked on over the course of your lives. We learn it, we get education, we learn the ropes, we pay our dues, and we reach a level as we get up where the view is pretty darn good. We catch our breath. We've been working hard on this climb, and we get in the groove. And the groove feels good. Heck, they even write songs about it, you know, like groovin'. Fortunately, I am a speaker, not a singer for all of us at this moment, but you get what I'm talking about. Now, I understand that your industry has this progression built into it. New technology, new level, new technology, new level. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you personally are not in the rut. I mean, consider IDEA, right? IDEA. The co-creation of NEMA and NAED, which then created a unique EDI called IDW, IDX, IRD, and the DAC. And as with most technologies, the IDW evolved to IDW2, with the 2 subsequently being dropped. I wonder then if IDW2, currently known as IDW, evolved to IDW3, what would we call it? Would we still call it IDW or IDW2, or could we call it IDW plus or IDW giant size with FRIES? If anybody knows what I just said, would you see me when this is done and tell me? But such is the nature of any business, and certainly technology, that there's change. But let's not forget the people along the way. As you saw with my neighbor, if you stay in the groove too long, it becomes a rut. And the longer you stay in the rut, the deeper it becomes. Now, the rut may be filled with activity and busyness, but it is not filled with challenges and fulfillment. Too many people are in the rut today. Kathy Black, president of Hearst Magazines and one of the 50 most powerful women in America, puts it this way: blindly striving to have it all is not the answer. Having what I call a 360-degree life isn't about reaching the top in everything you do. It's about achieving balance. It means a fully rounded existence that encompasses deep satisfaction with your personal life, work, and family. Notice she said deep satisfaction, not a deep rut. Now, there is a flip side to that rut, and that's the continual climb. And it's just, here I go. And I think that's how we were in our 20s. I remember how full of energy and idealism you were at that way back when. I graduated from Notre Dame, got my commission in the Marines, and I was ready to climb. I mean, I was ready to go. I volunteered to go every place I possibly could. Notre Dame, I'm there. Norway, I'm there. Okinawa, send me. Korea, I'm your guy. After 4 years on active duty, when my initial commitment was up, I was ready for that next level, next climb. And I applied to flight school. Now, in the Marines, that's a pretty hard thing to do. I mean, they've already paid for you to be on active duty and trained you to be there, and they don't necessarily want to send you to another place. But I applied. What the heck? You don't get if you don't ask. And my year, they accepted 4 people to transition from the ground side to the aviation side. Man, that letter showed up. I was like, woohoo, yeah, absolutely. And as soon as that woohoo passed, about a millisecond, I said to myself, okay, time to study hard so you can get jets. I mean, it was immediately, I was thinking about that next level to get to, and I wasn't even going to get to Pensacola for flight training for another 9 months. And then I was going to spend 12 months in basic flight training before I would even select aircraft. I went to the library. I was studying aeronautics. I was studying meteorology. I was studying all sorts of stuff because I was going to get jets. In fact, by the time I got to Pensacola, I was practically burned out because I was in this continual climb, but I was going to be a jet pilot. Problem is, the week I selected, they didn't have any jet slots. So I chose helicopters. Now, as soon as I chose helicopters, I told myself, okay, time to study hard so you can be at the top of your class and have your choice of aircraft. And that's exactly what happened. I graduated #1 in my class, and I got to pick my aircraft, and I picked Cobra helicopters. And as you can see, during this time for me, it's all about the climb. And when I went back to the Fleet Marine Force, it was all about deploying and earning new qualifications as a helicopter pilot. The Mediterranean, I'm your guy. Africa, send me. Kuwait, I'm the one. In the Navy, they call it haze, gray, and underway. Not quite sure what they call it in the Army, Bob, but it's probably a similar derogatory term to go with that, right? Haze, gray, and underway. And at age 31, I was back in the groove. After spending 70 days off the coast of Somalia, we sailed to Kuwait for 2 weeks of living on dry land. 2 weeks of none of this. 2 weeks of fresh fruit and vegetables. Because try as they may, the Navy never got me to believe that frozen chopped cabbage was a substitute for salad. We flew 25 helicopters and associated equipment off the ship to the base that we would be operating from. I was on the flight schedule to fly that night. It was a night vision goggle mission, and we were going to be shooting on the ranges in Kuwait, and this is what we exist to do. Now let me tell you about a Cobra helicopter. It's one of those skinny little things with glass all around it. There's one pilot in front and one pilot in back. It's got little stub wings on each side to carry rockets and missiles and stuff on. It's got 2 little skids to land on. It's got one big rotor blade up top, 65 feet around, spinning at 364 RPM, and that's got a little tail rotor in back. I was flying with a good friend of mine. His name was Tommy Matkin. Let me tell you about Tom. Tom is he's an honor grad engineer from Texas A&M. Tall, lean, and laid back. He's a poster board kind of Marine. I mean, one of those guys that you just look at and he should be in the picture. And laid back like a modern-day Jaeger. So we briefed to go out onto the range, and pretty simple stuff when you're shooting at night. You're 200 feet and 60 knots, and you just kind of fly a racetrack. So while the first aircraft comes in, the second one's out here, and then shoots and comes, you got a little racetrack going there. And first run, 200 feet, 60 knots, shoot, 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 looking good. We pull off, other aircraft in. Second run, 200 feet, 60 knots, shoot, 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 looking good. And man, this is what it's all about, right? I mean, we're having fun, and we're putting rounds on target. Third run, we impacted the ground at 100 miles an hour. Now, if you want to know what that feels like, think driving down the interstate in the passenger seat of a high-performance sports car at night, blindfolded, and the driver stands on the brakes. and then lets them go. And because of the grace of God, or the fact that Tommy is a great pilot, probably both, when we impact the ground, we don't hit, roll, disintegrate, and die. We bounce. And all of a sudden, we're at 800 feet, and this machine is shaking violently. Jesus, what happened? Tommy, gee, what happened? God, no time to think about that. Let's get control of this thing. Oh, my God. This is not good, okay? Shaking violently. At any minute, the transmission can shear off of its mounts. The rotor blade can come off its little mast and go flying that way, at which point we become your tax dollars at work, a $13 million lawn dart. But it doesn't happen. Somehow we continue to fly, and we ask our wingman to come in and take a look at us. And he comes up underneath us and, well, you know how dark and grainy it can be on these night vision goggles, but you don't have any landing gear. Say what? Say again, over. Yeah, the only thing hanging from your helicopter is a bunch of wires and twisted metal. Your skids are gone. I say again, you don't have any landing gear. No landing gear. No landing gear. There's no emergency procedure for this.